Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to India Game Changer. Today we are joined by Ashwarya Garg and Akshay Bhatnagar, serial entrepreneurs and co-founders of Hyped. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the show. How are you two doing today?
Couldn't be any more excited, Michael. I think this is something we've been looking forward to doing for a long time. And thank you for having us here with you.
Such a pleasure, Michael.
Yeah, it's completely my pleasure. Completely my pleasure. And guys, let's do this. And why don't we start with Ashwarya first? Before we get into the main part of our conversation, for my audience, can we get a little bit of an introduction from you, a little bit of your background?
Great. So hi, everyone. This is Ashwarya Garg. I've been an entrepreneur since 2013. I was the founding partner at Zostel, which was India's one of the first backpacking chain of hostels. The company was backed by Tiger Global to the tune of about $150 million, which had a supposed exit in 2016 to a SoftBank-backed group. In 2016, then I started building Innovate Co-working, which was one of India's first Y Combinator company. We raised investments from marquee investors as well as who's and who's of the startup economy then. In about 3 years of time, after scaling to about a 5 million square feet portfolio, we were sort of recognized as WeWork of India, but we exited by selling the company to Oyo Group for about $30 million cash.
Good for you.
And now I'm building Hyped with a very singular mission that creators are the new digital businesses, and I want to turn them into creatorpreneurs.
Creators are the new digital businesses. I love this. Ashwarya, do you want to give a little bit of an introduction of yourself as well?
You mean Akshay?
Akshay, excuse me.
I would love to start by saying hello to all the people who are listening right now. I'm an ex-computer science engineer who in the 4 years of studies realized that this is not something that I really want to do. Got accidentally caught up in the entrepreneurial first wave of Indian startup ecosystem. Absolutely fell in love with the entire process. Since then, I've built Zostel and Innovate with Ashwarya and the amazing mentors in both the companies. In 2019, after the Innovate's exist, it became our mission to actually create creators into creatorpreneurs.
So can I ask you this though? So you studied computer science, you said, right? And look, I hear this story a lot, and this is actually one of my favorite stories, and I'll tell you, because somebody told me this when I was in Mumbai for a startup conference, and they said there are 3 things that every Indian child can become. Okay, an engineer, right, or a computer scientist, a doctor, or a family disappointment. Those are his words, not mine, right? And it made me laugh, and actually the audience laughed too. But I'm curious about this, like going into computer science, did you know before you went in that this wasn't really something that you super wanted to do, but you kind of had to do it as an obligation, or did you just go do it because you thought you might like it?
It's the former part, right? Like you clearly mentioned, it's either every Indian household, I think 10 years back, had this mentality that you have to become an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Rest every profession is not going to guarantee an absolutely bright future. And that was the reason why my family and parents, and we're a very culture-driven society, right?
Yep.
We respect the decisions taken by the family for the betterment of you.
Yep.
And in that view, I joined the engineering college. But the first day walking in, I absolutely knew that this is not something that I would love doing. And in the next 4 years, the kind of time we spent in college, the kind of time I spent in learning, not inside the classes, but outside the classes,
Right,
to know what I did not have to do. So I think the 4 years of professional education for me taught me what not to do rather than what to do.
Do you think though, because this is really interesting for me, do you think though that there's a certain type of person that just has these entrepreneurial instincts, right? Because you even said, I found this startup thing by accident. Like we can argue about whether this was actually an accident or not, right? But I believe that like there's a kind of person that just wants to like be outside of what the normal people are doing. And I don't think you can be like a standard issue person if you're going to go out and be an entrepreneur and be involved in the startup world. What do you think of that?
I think it's more to do with the kind of ecosystem that you're brought in, especially when in your formative years, the kind of people that you're hanging out on a daily basis, the kind of people that become your inspiration at that point of time. I think that aspect drives a lot of passion and a will to do something which is not standing in the crowd. And that spirit, I think nobody is born an entrepreneur. Like nobody is born a doctor or nobody is born an engineer.
Yeah.
Likewise, there is a very tough road that you have to follow. But as they say, right, when you pick up something and what keeps you motivated enough to get up every day and do it over and over again, that is the passion that comes from the ecosystem that you have around you. I think your circumstances turns into an entrepreneur more than the skill set.
I could not agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. I want to talk how we get from Zostel, right? Yeah. Which feels like kind of a regular business, but done in a sort of modern technological way, to co-working, which again, it's kind of a leveraged real estate business with a little bit of a tech involved. Like it's a business that people understand, into Hyped, which I think is a business that you kind of just made up. Do you know what I mean? So I'm curious, like how you go from one to the next.
Ashwarya, you want to take this up?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I think interestingly, I'll tell you how Zostel happened first.
Please.
Akshay and I have been together since 2010, right? So it's been a friendship of over about 14 years. I think on an average, marriages in most developed countries don't
win for sure.
Don't get that far. So I think we've been together since 2010, and we started college together with the same college, right? And like Akshay said, right, the first thing that we learned in the college was things that we don't want to do. So I had a civil engineering background, Akshay had a computer science engineering background, and both of us were like, this is something we don't want to do. So one of the things that always bound us, very cliched, but we love traveling, right? And then during the college years, there was a lot of impromptu traveling that we used to do, right? Just get on your bikes or probably take a state government bus and, just get on, like take a one-way ticket and travel to wherever the bus stops next. We'll get down and we'll see where to go and stop and, unexplored locations. About the third year of the college, we happened to be on such one of the impromptu trips. And when we were in a city called Jaipur, Delhi, Agra, Jaipur is called like a golden triangle where generally it's a very tourist, destination to travel all the three cities side by side. I was born and brought up in Agra. So Jaipur, Jodhpur, Udaipur is a belt that we wanted to cover. It's all started actually with a Google search, like affordable places near me.
right.
Or very
simple stuff.
Simple stuff like cheap place near me to stay. Right? He's a college student. Like I hardly had about like $100 of pocket money was enough to last us throughout a month. Right? So that kind of money we were living with, right? And this popped up, right? As Zostel, which had sort of like a bunk bed for about I think $5 to $7 at that point of time, and we were like, oh, this looks good, looks perfect. Clean and everything. It's perfect, and let's just walk in here, right? But one thing interesting that was there, that like any other college going kid, having like that 1 month Europe trip, backpacking trip, was something that we already has imagined. Like if you go in Indian colleges and ask 100 students, what do you want to do? One big thing in your college, that's that 1 month Europe trip, which nobody ends up.
I still want to do it.
So by that, we had actually researched a lot about that trip, that 1 month Euro trip, and concepts like generators and postals. Which are very community-driven concepts, and how people from different communities come and live together in bunk beds, and they sort of share their travel journeys, and you get to live the world through their eyes. And all of that was something that was always fascinating to us, that how such amazing communities are built without any money being invested, just by the passion of two similar thoughts together, right?
And sharing, yeah.
And then when we walked into those hostel, I mean, oh, dude, like that was like a unicorn sort of a carpet is being laid in front of us. And it was all magical. Like, because the moment we walked into that facility, we were like the kind of ethnicities of different walks of people, right? Different nationalities. And I mean, how we had actually read it on Wikipedia pages, how we had actually read it on blogs and Reddits and YouTube videos. We could actually see it all unfolding in front of our eyes, and we were amazed. Like, dude, like this exists in India. I mean, we actually know about this, right? And that's where it was like sort of a love at first sight, right? And we walked into the hostel. We stayed there entire the weekend. We actually did not go out. For the next 2 days, we were just inside the hostel. We were in the common area. We were just talking to people, having food there, having the best time of our life there. And that's where we decided to, immediately meet the founders of Zostel and say that, hey, dude, we are flabbergasted. We were amazed. We moved. What you're doing is something phenomenal. Tell us how can we be part of this. I mean, and that just felt like an immediate calling. So one thing that you asked, right, that how do you feel about being an entrepreneur, because nobody's a born entrepreneur. I think one of the biggest factor there is your gut call. The moment you feel, hey, this is something I'm just so drawn towards. I mean, this just feels like I would do this. Even if you don't pay me, I would do this with so much passion in my life that you can't even imagine about, right? That's like a gut calling which gives you that edge that, hey, this is something that you need to pursue. That's what happened with Zostel for us, right? And from that day, we're graduating out of IIM Calcutta that year. And we said that, hey, we would love to partner with you. Give us anything, like give us any task, right? And we would love to get on board with something. And we actually chased them even after the weekend. And they said, okay, we spoke with them a lot, but they said, okay, guys, give us some time. We'll think about it. But I think we kept chasing them for about a week, 10 days. And guys, I mean, there's no saying no. We want to do this. Yeah, don't pay us. We're like, dude, we're in college. We don't need money. Our parents are sending us $100 a month. We're good with that. Okay. Don't pay us money. Just put us to use in something in Zostel, right? And I think they saw some spark in us, right? And that's where one thing led to the another. And then both Akshay and I became the founding partners to Zostel. There was a sister business, which was Zooroom, which is a class competitor to OU Rooms in India. Then we also developed under the Zostel franchisee. So the part where, because you asked something specific and why I'm getting into this detail, because this will play out, right? So Zostel was something which taught us that how you can build one product and you can create something which everybody wants to own. And that's what happened with Zostel. We set up like 2 properties out there. We showed the world the kind of culture and what was happening out there, the cult that was developing. And every backpacker out there today was like, dude, I want to own a Zostel. Forget about traveling into a Zostel. I want to own and run a Zostel, right? That's where we got introduced and we experimented out with our first asset-light model approach. So we said that, hey, we've built a brand. Now we want people who are passionate about traveling, passionate about talking about destination traveling, passionate about backpacking, and have some access to either capital or some kind of a land. We want to give them the know-how of setting up a Zostel, but on their own cost, right? And that's where an asset-light business as an approach started, which led to developing this business being huge. And Zostel continues to be running a very, very successful franchisee even today. Now, this experience gave us the know-how of both Akshay and me, how to sort of put together an asset-light business, how to create a product and then a cult around it, and people want to own a piece of it. And then how we can leverage upon that opportunity. And second thing, which became a very interesting part about the journey, was how to leverage the power of content, right? And I'll talk about this more further into the part where I talk about why hype was born. But we, till date, we've spent minimal to negligible on Zostel as a marketing cost, right?
How did you get to that though at Zostel? This is the part that's super interesting for people, right? It's like you have what feels like a physical business, what feels like in a way like a travel business. You look at what I say about media. I think everybody should be their own media company. I believe this deeply. This is the thing that pulls me and awakens me every single day. But what was the spark? What was the thing, the click thing that got you guys going, wait a second, content matters more than like advertising?
So it all started when we had some really amazing people who were traveling across the world, and they simply just started writing a couple of blogs. And the amount of queries that came in, the dude, you know what? I read about you guys on that blog. I saw that Facebook post out there, right? I mean, somebody wrote about you on TripAdvisor. I've been searching. Where have you been? I'm not able to find you on maps. I want to come and visit your place. And you're like, dude, wait a minute. We really don't need to do any marketing.
No,
Let's just become a media company, because we're any which ways an asset-light company. We're into tech. We are bringing the knowledge compiled in a suite of software and the know-how of putting this piece together. The real estate is coming from people who want to own a piece of this. And all we need to do is have the right content out there, create that foam in the market. And then everything out there has been just leveraging the power of social media, right? Content on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Snap, on Discords, on podcasts, on blogs, everywhere that we could talk about that, hey, if you're traveling to India, how you need to be at this best place if you want to experience the culture of backpacking travelers in India. If you want to see...
Did you institutionalize the creation of that content, or did you allow it to get created by other users who just posted using the logo or links and stuff like that? Or it's kind of a combination of both? You know what I mean? Did you manage it at all?
I think trying to get into commercialization or institutionalizing it was something that we wanted to stay away from the initial bit, because we wanted to be very organic. And we were surprised at the freedom at which we gave people to cover it in the choice and the way that they wanted to do. The amount of ethnicity and the organic volume that came in. I mean, and it felt like that if we even try to even change a full stop, it will be dented by our thought.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
And we didn't want to do that.
Yeah, because look, the commentary from somebody from Poland which is going to be awesome. It's going to be very different than the commentary from somebody from Tennessee, even if they're both positive. So I guess you don't want to get in the middle of that and just go talk in the way you would normally talk and speak about it in the way you'd normally speak about it, and we'll let that ride, right?
The whole travel is a form of an experience.
Sure.
Right? When an individual goes out from his comfort of his house, what he's coming back after the trip is stories, is experiences.
Yeah.
Because there's so many monuments that you can see and there's so many views that you can capture in a day. It's all about that experience that you get to cut off from your regular world and step into a completely new world.
Yeah.
Now, for us at Zostel at that point of time, it was very critical for us to create those experiences, right? Never in India at that point of time, you have to imagine when Zostel was created, the normal mode of traveling used to be in mid-budget hotels.
Yeah, I know. It's so
hotel
different.
Is a very confined space, right? It's in a room. You're traveling with your family. You're only talking to the people that you already are coming with. There's no barrier which is getting created of talking of outside the world.
If you did in a hotel what you do in a hostel, you'd get thrown out of the hotel. And I don't mean anything bad. I just mean the social aspect of it. For people that have never stayed in a hostel, and I mean a great one, right? Like the ones you're describing, where there's somebody from Turkey, somebody from Australia, somebody from India, somebody from Pakistan, somebody from everywhere. And you walk in, you're like, we may not sleep tonight because this conversation could go on forever. Never happens in a hotel bar. So it's a completely different experience. But for people that haven't stayed at a hostel, they think of it in one way. But actually, it's a very social, very friendly, really kind of amazing place. Yeah.
That was the foundation for our user-generated content. Yep. When we realized that people are taking away that experiences, our first aim was how do we capitalize on it and make sure that every person who's walking into a Zostel goes back and talks about that story to the people and near and dear friends of theirs.
Yeah.
And that's how we created a very organic chain of a UGC model, which then later on resulted into an institutional communication channel.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while building the Zostel out and having access to this, right, which is a power of content and a power of asset-light model and the power of design, right? I think I don't want to skip that, right? Because that plays such an important role. Those little knick-knack nooks and those little things those aesthetics play such a big role in terms of driving that thought process for you. And once we had the journey of Zostel and showrooms as a second product. That's where in 2016, after the supposed exit, Akshay and I, one of our dear friends, Dr. Ritesh Malik, and we were just, casually chit-chatting, and Ritesh had this thought, right? That, hey guys, you know what people haven't experienced as in traveling, right? Why can't they enjoy the work inside offices in that manner?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, traveling is something that you would do probably once a year, twice a year. Office is something that you're doing 6 days a week, right? I mean, if you want to feel happy, why do people have to hate Mondays, right? Why does it feel like that going to an office is not as charming as enjoying out my weekend, right?
Right.
Because the culture, the design, the space, the aesthetics is not that powering for you. It doesn't make you feel welcoming, right? What is that difference that people so much boast about being in a Facebook office and a Google office that the rest of the world cannot boast about?
Yeah, I mean, it was just fun and exciting and interesting and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that feels like that you're not in an office. That feels like you're in an institution where there is so much of a personal growth for you.
Yeah.
That feels like you are in a creative bubble of ideas where you can pluck something out and immediately start working upon.
Yeah.
That you get access to so much of emotional quotient, so much of intellectual quotient, that the salaries becomes like a byproduct for you. That's something which you're not even now concerned about.
Right.
So that's the second line of thought which started, that why coming from a Zostel, we started thinking about Innovate co-working as a product, right? And that's what got us into believing that, hey, you know what? India needs that. India is a land to so many engineers. I mean, we have, and per the population will be crossing China in 2024, right? So we're just so many people out there. Everybody works. And everybody works inside. Yeah, everybody works inside an office. And we're like, dude, offices need to change. People need to feel happy here, right? And with that central core thought and then our learnings of community and content from Zostel is what led us to build Innovate. That we said, hey, we've built something in hospitality. Now let's try to replicate that experience into commercial real estate. It's an uphill task, has been done in the US, is being done in the US by WeWork. Looks difficult, but not impossible. And that's where we started building upon the Innovate journey, where we said that, hey, we will redesign the offices in a manner where it feels like walking into like a place where your emotional quotient is more, like the order of priority is emotional quotient, happiness quotient, and then your intelligence quotient.
Right.
That's what we wanted to do, right? And I think that's what got us into building that. Again, we set up few campuses, a couple of them ourselves, created a product which created a FOMO, and where every real estater was like, hey, nobody wants to come, and everybody's like, even if I end up renting out the office space from you, can you build it like how Innovate does? How about you come into my property and build it out, and we'll co-lease it to the tenants out there? We said, fine, that's the model we always wanted to get into, right? So again, the entire asset light approach, 95% of the entire Innovate franchisee was an asset light, right? Which means we were just building the tech, the design, and the know-how of the community, right? Which led to, we had talked about the top startups. Paytm's headquarters was in Bangalore, was inside an Innovate. Swiggy's headquarters in Delhi was inside an Innovate.
Wow.
Ola's headquarters of Gurgaon, Ola Cars headquarters in Gurgaon was an Innovate, right? So, it just felt like the new entrepreneurs, people who have young workforce, people who are driven by tech, people who are driven by community and ideas, are finding Innovate as the second home. That's what we called it, a second home.
Right. But it's interesting. If you think about a workspace in the same context that you think about Zostel and hostels, it almost like flips it on its head, right? It's a place where you're going to learn, to grow, to meet people that are different than you are, and potentially to meet people from different companies. The greatest thing for me when I used to work in a co-working space was just being able to get up from my desk and walk over and talk to people that were doing interesting stuff different from what I was doing.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Changed my life.
And that draws such a parallel correlation to our traveling, right? That you go travel, you want to talk to interesting people and say that, hey, you're from Turkey, you're from Australia, tell me more about it, right? What's the best time to visit your country? Like, what is happening in your country right now? Tell me what are the good places to be, right? And that's what you would do in a co-working space. You'll go up to, founders, you'll go up to, the people out there and say that, hey, what's the idea that you're working upon? Hey, that sounds interesting. How do you go about it? Okay, what is it solving for? Oh, that site just looks so cool, right? Why didn't I think about it in that manner, right? So
could you imagine in a real office? Could you imagine in a real office behaving like that? Like, I've always wanted to get up from my desk and go to the other side of the floor and go, what are you guys working on? But if I did that, it would just be like, okay, someone call the police because this dude's insane. Just somebody get him fast. But when you travel, everybody does that. You'll talk to random people. No age group, doesn't matter.
Yes.
And if you can build a workspace like that, that's kind of cool.
I think there's one more point I would love to add, right?
Go ahead.
More ethos that Innovate was built upon was this cultural aspect, the intermingling of different personalities together in a workspace is also very, very exciting. But at the end of the day, it is an office space, right? People are coming here to work.
Yep.
And the major problem statement here, because every company has a large workforce, and retention and keeping the workforce happy is one of the major challenges that every company faces initially, in the initial days. How do we make sure that the employees coming on time, they're staying in late, they're doing what they're supposed to do? So we had another ethos that sort of executed in a very beautiful manner was how to make Mondays exciting. Because all over the world, right, Mondays are looked down upon as that blue, dark, gray day that you have to get up after a 2-day weekend and you just have to go and sit in the office and it's a dull phase. Then you get the energy back on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and then it fizzes out on a Friday again.
Right.
So we made Mondays exciting at Innovate. Mondays used to be, people used to look forward, I have to go to office on Monday. And then the rest of the week just fell into place. Right? So small things that adds to a very, very productive workforce at the end of the day. That was the thought.
The term was thank God it's Monday, TGIM.
Yeah.
But I like it. Because again, you can change everybody's mindset by just doing these small, nuanced, subtle things where they're not even thinking someone's trying to change their mindset. They're just like, I wonder what's going to happen on Monday. I need to get up a little bit earlier.
Yeah. I would say that we've been, both Akshay and I feel we've been fortunate and blessed to have people around us who have helped us in the last few years to have a DNA, which is very driven by the power of great design and great content sharing, right? We could have been at any other places. We could have been in any other fintech company. We could have been doing something else as well, right? But our stars were aligned to be consistently around people who had the knack of great design and prioritizing content as the first priority in terms of taking your product ahead, right?
So now let me see if I can try to answer my own question.
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't think anything at scale, in entrepreneurship or in life is accidental. I don't believe in coincidence or these types of accidents. So you have two guys that are super interested in travel. They're like they're crazy. They want to travel. They go to a place and they feel like their mind is blown by this experience that they have. And they say, we want to be involved. We need to be involved in this business. This falls into a category of something that I call, it's not that I want to do this. I have to do this.
Absolutely correct.
And this is what people talk about when they talk about the passion of an entrepreneur. They're not talking about like, oh, I love crocheting. They're like, this business model has to be done and I have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, and then you realize along the way that this word of mouth user generated content thing is now starting to kind of grow. And you're thinking, wait a second, we don't have to spend any money on marketing. So that drops to our bottom line. Our margins are much higher. Our experience is still better. But if we can just get everybody to talk about it, we win, but also everybody wins. And then if we can asset light this thing, right, we can get everybody to want to own it. So then we don't have to spend all the money on building each one of these things. We just let our community do this. And then you use the same model there that you use in the next business. You like, let's just make this kind of the same as that with obviously some changes, but using the same content strategy that worked. And then you're like, wait a second, maybe the business here is upside down. Maybe now we have to do a content business that then we can feed into everything else now that we understand that. And then we just need to build some tech around that and make sure we understand how that works from a platform perspective and then start plugging people into it. And let's call that hyped. I mean, do I have this right?
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on point.
I don't think we would have been able to put this in a better perspective, Michael.
True. I second that. Yeah, ideal layer that doing this, also realizing, empathizing with the fact that all the people who have built that content and helped drive that business, we might or might not have able to give them back the fair share of profits that was always due to them, right? Yeah. And that's where we were like, no, this business was actually like and where you started. Every company has to be a media business at some point of time. Yeah. And like the media, the content is owned by creators. And if the creator is going to be putting content, they might as well make profits out of everything that they drive in the economy. There doesn't exist a tech which helps them does that. Let us, given that we've done that over the 7-8 years, we understand how this functionality is. Now let us flip the model. Let us be in the hands of creators and say that, hey, you bring in hospitality, you bring in D2C, you bring in commercial real estate, you bring in fintech, you bring in Mammy Poco pants, whatever, right? I can do anything for you.
From a guy who's got kids. Otherwise, Mammy Poco doesn't even mean anything. You have no one knows except you and me now.
And essentially, Michael, what you said, there's this one core element that I think we did not touch upon in that entire journey of Zostel and Innovate both.
Go ahead.
Was that what we realized was that the content which was going out had an impact of changing a consumer or a person's mindset.
Yeah.
In terms of a content piece, a spoken word, a visual picture, a video can drive your impulse to make a purchase decision.
Yeah.
Like it can drive your actual thought process. You might be going for an XYZ model of a phone, but you see my best friend holding another phone and I just might flip, right? So the content has that power to influence somebody's decision.
Absolutely.
And that was very, very core. And the problem was there was no attribution model to it. Nobody could measure whether a content has actually changed your perspective or changed your decision or not. That was missing. And it was very surprising that that was missing because in the last 10 years, content has driven almost 90% of the people's influence, whether it be politics, whether it be staycations. I think Bali and Hawaii's 90% of the tourist business have come from Instagram, where people have gone and posted pictures. And
so I think what Akshay wanted to say, I think that we have clearly realized over the last few years has been that, I mean, as an individual,
right,
you are a sum product of the content that you watch. I mean, I want to put that on a t-shirt and wear it, right? That you are a sum product of the content that you watch.
But it used to be like you are the sum content of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And I think what you're saying is 2 things, really, is that people are not hanging out in person as much, first of all. But second of all, they're watching and consuming so much content in a way they didn't before, that by some definition, that has to be part of who they are.
I mean, anything, the food habits, your political opinions, the places that you want to visit, like the clothes, the kind of you want to wear. I mean, I can just see, like I can actually tell you, look at your Instagram history for a past 1 week and tell you what will be the 5 top conversation you would be having with your common group.
Yeah, or already had, but yeah.
So I think that's where we are. Like you put it right. Like while we were a sum product of the 5 people that we used to hang out with, our content was a sum product of that. We're actually flipped that model now, that we are a sum product of the content that we watch.
I think so.
And we just get integrated with those people only.
Yeah, I got it. I'm curious about how this whole process works. I was looking at Hyped, but it's now there's a wait list being created. How does it work?
Yeah.
For people that create content that think they have an audience, and in my mind, to be fair, like I don't think the audience needs to be 500,000 people. It just needs to be an intentional like 10,000 people. Yeah. And I think you win. Yeah. But go ahead. Like, can you just walk me through how this would work?
Yeah, Akshay, why don't you take that up? You want to answer that?
Absolutely. So, Michael, when we started this, we saw very, very beautiful phenomena, right? We were spending 5 hours, 6 hours on social media platforms. Okay. And we already discussed, right? We are a sum total of the 5 people's content that we're consuming on a daily basis. Yep. And that actually resulted into a purchase decision. So when we literally saw these creators in an individual aspect, as not as a community as a whole, what we realized was that these are the guys who actually have a distribution ingrained into them. They already have those 10,000 people, 5,000 people, 500,000 people, or 5 million people looking and consuming their content. And the relationship between the creator and the follower was very, very innate in terms of that everybody was following each and every word to them, right? And in that process, what started as the initial foundation of influencer marketing, right, which is a worldwide phenomena right now. And we've seen so many digital creators being multi-millionaires now, was based on this. The brands realized this phenomena and they said, hey, wait, guys, if I have to build 100 million distribution by myself, I will need to invest 5 years and multi-million dollars to create 100 million distribution. There's this individual who's on a monthly basis generating the same distribution. Let me pay him an XYZ amount of money and let him talk to his own people about my brand or my services.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, but that's not so new today. That's been going on for a while, right?
Absolutely correct. But entire process, what used to happen was because the distribution is owned by the creator. And like we discussed, why not create an attribution system where a reward functionality exists? When I'm talking to somebody that I've curated for the past 5 years in terms of my fans or a follower, what if I have a destination of my own? What if what I am endorsing or what I am talking about is available for people to directly transact with me rather than going to a second party or a third party?
Yeah.
Right. That served as a foundation of building the Hype as a tech platform. Right. Ashwarya, would you want to take forward from how the tech platform converted into a consumer behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. But just to before that, just to add and to sort of thoda sa layman down this, right? We said that, look at any other business out there on the internet, like just in the world, right? I mean, fintech, or let's say start with basic, right? Home living, right? You want to rent out a nice new apartment in Manhattan or probably in India, in the capital in New Delhi. And then what do? You go out and meet a few brokers, you meet a few property consultants. They tell you, hey, this is nice. This has this new lush green lawn. This has a parking space. This does not have any owner, interference, etc., right? All of that is content to your ears, right? That's content for you to make a decision, right? And then you said, okay, out of the 3-4 choices that you've showed me and talked about, hey, I like this one. And you said, hey, thank you. Help me get this closed, right? And then as a part of them educating you about that product, you give them a success fee, right? Thank you for assisting me in doing that. Take fintech, go into a bank. There's a guy out there who says that, hey, you know what? I've got some extra liquid cash in my saving account. Don't keep it in my saving account. Hey, you know what? Can you tell them about my plans? I don't want to make just 4% on my saving account. I want to at least look at it making about 8-9%, right? He said that, hey, sir, at the bank, there's a guy who tells you that, sir, we've got these 3-4 plans. One's a direct plan. You have less risk. You can withdraw anytime in a 2 days period, which gives you 7%. There's something more, which we've got an equity fund, which would have marginal risk. We invest in large cap here. Generally, the last 3 years returns have been somewhere at 12-13%. You can expect to make about 10-11% on average, etc., yada. But with all that information, whatever place you choose to invest, right, that guy who's assisted you has a success fee associated with that. Right. Right. When we are living in a world where somebody educating us about a decision has been normalized to receive a success fee for it, both from the institution and from the consumer, right? Why is it that on the internet, creators are being treated as virtual billboards? I mean, look at what they're doing. I mean, currently they are doing the storytelling part. Yep. They're doing the education part. They're doing the conviction part. They're doing the impulse creation part. They tell you how you would wear this t-shirt and look good. They make you feel confident. They make you feel good about yourself. They make you feel that, hey, wearing this, you can feel like an amazing personality, and you have that confidence to go out and talk to people, right? They're really helping you shape the entirety of you, right? And if that's happening, right, why is it that this entire economy is not being given a success fee for it?
Right.
Why is it that they're just being kept like as a virtual billboard,
Yeah.
right? That, hey, you
Well,
know what, you
less because you have to pay for billboards, but yeah.
yeah, right. So that's what got us thinking, right? That we built two businesses where this entire vertical, I can shamelessly say that this entire vertical has been the biggest strength, biggest marketing pull for us.
Yeah.
This is the vertical which has actually built our valuations because the kind of brand building and the revenue that they brought in,
Yep.
right? And we've done nothing for them. That's what got us thinking, right? That, you know what, simple. The way it has been not democratized and the way it has been simply put down is the fact that we have only prioritized the technology. And we have said that, hey, you're not a tech, you don't get anything, right? But what we fail to believe is in the era of today, the democratization of technology has to happen. The ownership of the distribution has to put the weight. The person who owns the distribution has to be the winner, not the person who owns the technology, right?
Yeah.
This technology can be built. You have people out there. We are living in India where we have got for every one average profession, we would have got about 10 engineers out there,
Right.
right? So yeah, I mean, technology is not a moat anymore, right?
No.
You can build technologies, right? I mean, there are tens of payment gateway, there are tens of aggregator website, there are tens of cab hailing apps out there. what what matters is your distribution. If you own the distribution, then you're the winner, right? But on the internet, for the creators, they were completely sidelined. And that's what we want to say, that, hey, we want to be those big brothers that you say that, guys, we've got you all covered.
So
We'll build the
how
entire
does it
tech for
work
you.
though? In other words, so I don't disagree with you. A lot of people that do content creation somehow haven't figured out how to monetize it. They don't know how to make money for it. And that's why I said before, if we back up a little bit, that you're flipping the other businesses on their head and you're removing the bottom part, not because you didn't like it, you loved it, but because you figured if we could build this and then connect a whole bunch of other people to it.
Any business out there, any business out there.
Right. Then you accomplish a few things besides, of course, increasing your valuation, but you do the technology democratization that you've just spoken about because you've built the platform.
Yes.
And you've also done this because most people that know how to create content don't know how to create a business around that content. They just simply don't understand. And they could literally have either millions of followers or, like we said, 10,000 followers. And all of that has value. But building the tech around it to get the communication with your potential clients or with your followers and just being able to source and do all the ERP and warehouse management and payment stuff, you can't do that yourself. And then the whole business that goes around combining, and here's where I'm super interested in the tech side. What is the intersection of media, any kind of media? Because it's not just content creation, which I think disparages exactly the work that's getting done. You're talking about building a media business, big or small, and commerce. What's the relationship? Because before it used to be, I'm a company, I want to pay you, the TV, to tell others to come buy my product. But what's happening is kind of the TV is getting disintermediated and the company is being its own television and just going directly to its potential clients. Yeah.
So, Michael, you just reminded me of my first investor conversation who actually gave a pass on us, right? And this was his word. And exactly asking the guys, are you a content company or are you a commerce company? I was like, guys, that's the problem. You don't realize that both coexist now.
Right.
You cannot be either a content company or a commerce company. You have to be both.
Right.
Because that's what the human behavior is.
I love this though. Shouldn't you have just gotten up and just said, exactly, and just like walked out because there was no way to explain it?
That's exactly what happened. That investor conversation, that call lasted only 15 minutes because at the 14th minute after 13 minutes I explained the model, 14th minute he asked this question. So guys, are you a content company or a commerce company? I said, dude, exactly. You cannot be separate. You have to be both. That's what I just explained. But I said, I don't think this is a product that you would love to back. So let's save each other some time here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's how it happened, right? So yeah, again, like just to talk about how the tech, we were like, what's happening right now is that uh, up until now, so there's a social media whose game is whose priority is just to make you watch more content.
Yep, that's
Their
it.
platform has not been designed to enable a transaction.
No.
There is an advertisement environment whose priority is just to redirect you.
Yeah.
They don't want to look at any other
No.
thing. And there is a commerce there is a commerce platform whose priority is to enable a seamless payment. Right? They're not worried about anything else. They're like I want to make sure my warehouse is integrated. Your payment goes through in 3 seconds. There is no lag in anything. Right? But the problem was that what we realized that a consumer had to jump from an advertisement to a content to a commerce platform, and doing these switches, we are losing 95% of the traffic.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's a bad experience.
Right? It's a very bad experience. There's just too many lags and too many clicks to go forward.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we had to build the tech. So we had two options, right? Do we build a layer of content where the commerce is happening, or do we build a layer of commerce where the content is happening? You want me to repeat that?
No, I'm just thinking about it because I'm trying to think about how would you evaluate what that actually should be, because the words are all the same, right? But it's the perspective that's different.
So you do that by realizing how further ahead or how further first you want to be in the food chain, right?
Yeah.
Where do you want to catch your customer at the youngest part of their journey?
Right, at the earliest part of their journey. Yeah, before they get to any other store, you want to make sure, come on in here.
Before they get to anything.
Yeah.
Yes. So we realize that that's happening at the content part, right? That where the content is where the earliest part of the interaction is happening.
Exactly.
Right? And we said, okay, we have our answer. This is where the earliest interaction is. Then we have to exist here. And hence, we chose to build commerce over content rather than building content over commerce.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what we did was we said that, hey, now there's a social media where everybody, by the virtue of themselves, are already owning a lot of content in this journey, right? So what we need to simply enable is how do we quickly get this, and these are the words in our head, right? How do we get this journey, which is see it, like it, buy it? How can I get that done in a snap? Like in just 3 seconds, how can I match these words into human click? See it, like it, buy it, right? And I said, okay, that was literally my first product pitch to my team, right? That guys, we have to replicate this experience. See it, like it, buy it. Right? Start thinking about a product here, right? And that's where the idea was that, hey, how can we go from people who are watching a content on social media? Let's say I'm watching an Instagram reel. How do I make you from that reel, have 3 clicks done, buy the product and come back to watching the content without making you leave the native Instagram environment itself, right?
Yeah.
And while that is happening, how do I make sure that I have rightly attributed and proven to the world? So I will draw a small Web3 analogy here. And then I think while we were building Thanks to the World, we were hearing a lot of Web3, and we took a couple of pages from that book because everybody was talking about it. Hey, decentralization and proof of work. Decentralization and proof of work. And we said, hey, exactly. We want to do a decentralization of technology where we say that anyone who has a distribution can now have their own micro website, and they don't need to do anything. They don't need to worry about warehousing, payment, brand integrations, fulfillment, customer support, nothing. Everything is made. Like if I had to imagine and put down a product in a layman terms, imagine we have built an Amazon, but rather than selling ourselves, we are an Amazon as a service to creators. Now you can build your own mini Amazons by this one big Amazon which exists,
right?
Which will exist on your private URL.
Did you build the technology that then built that, or did you white label somebody else's sort of store building technology?
No. We built the technology ground up.
Got it.
The entire OMS integration, payment integrations, entire cataloging, entire consumer journey of how the product will be seen on that page, how will they tap, it was built ground up, right? Because we realized one thing was very important, which was the second part of Web3, which was proof of work, right? Now, if we relied on sharing this data with someone else or not having this data completely to ourselves, is where we will lose the game. So to go back to a brand and say that, you know what, because I saw this Mike in Michael's podcast is why I bought it.
Right.
And the brand says, hey, show me a proof. if I'm not able to show him a proof, the brand will say, hey, you just messing around, right? So I needed to show him a proof and say that, dude, here's the proof. This is the transaction. This is how the consumer came. This is how he bought it. This is how he completed the transaction. This was the moment when he was in Michael's podcast. This is when he saw it. This is how he clicked it. This is the user journey. Now you've got to pay Michael for that transaction. That's what we enable brand. So we own this entire tech, hence we own the entire transaction, hence we own the entire data, and hence we had the entire proof of transaction, which enable brand to say that, hey, fair point. Now I'm going to pay every creator who has a proof of enabling this transaction for me.
Does that mean you have technology on both sides of this market? In other words, that the brand also has to have some kind of technology, some kind of view and some kind of window onto all the data that you're sharing with them. And on the other side, obviously and I don't know if it's a marketplace or not, but I want to talk about that again in a second. But for every creator that has their own kind of microsite and micro store where they put products, they sit on the other side of that pipe, right? So as the information goes back and forth, they both understand what data they have, but you own that data, you're saying?
So Michael, in a nutshell, there's a commerce business, there's a D2C brand, which invariably has two buckets to sell in right now, right? One is a marketplace model where already a marketplace exists, like Amazon or a Flipkart or a Myntra or any other website.
Yep.
And the other channel is their own D2C channel, where they bring the traffic directly to themselves and directly sell to the consumer. Right? We realized in that both the buckets, the actual impulse and the maximum traffic which is getting generated is coming from content websites, is coming from social media platforms. But there's no easy way of linking this together, right? On the creator side, the traffic is getting generated, but there's no way of attributing that traffic to the conversion.
Yeah, and there's no way that creator can build that technology, him or herself.
Absolutely.
It's just not possible.
It's very difficult, right? Because then you have to build the entire ecosystem.
I mean, as a creator, you want to focus your energy on building the content, right? That's what matters to you a lot, right? But at somewhere in the hindsight, you like that, hey, if I'm going to do this full time, I need to know how to earn a living out of it, right? For which, if I'm not married to technology, how will a conversion ever happen, right? So you've got only two choices, right? You invest and build a team, which a couple of creators have done. Like if you look at what Mr. Beast has done, right? Sure. I mean, either then you invest in that larger team and build that larger organization, which is working for you, right? And then you create that entire technology behind you, right? Or that's 0.0001% of the creators.
Thank you. Because Mr. Beast has 134 million subscribers, and even Jake Paul and Logan Paul, it's a kind of a different league. What you're trying to do is different. There's a level below here, level in between. As a matter of fact, every place in between there, you're trying to say, you could make $10,000 a month. Just based on the content you're creating, or you could make $10 million a month. But to be fair, for the people that could generate $10 million of revenue, they have their own team. They build out their own tech. They don't need this. What you're doing, you talked about it earlier, is democratizing this for everybody so that literally like somebody who's doing a cooking channel at home and they've got like 1,000 people that watch every month, but religiously love them. Well, then they'll buy the knives and whatever, and they should make some money from that.
Absolutely. Michael, there's one thing that no creator started from 100 million subscribers, right?
Exactly.
Even if you look at Mr. Beast's journey, it started from zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Good 3 years, there was hardly 100 views on any channel, and it suddenly broke.
Yeah.
But the journey he incorporated after breaking down, he took time to understand. What we're building here is the generalization model for all the creators out there. We know the maximum number of conversion and transaction is happening in the lifestyle, fashion, beauty business. And the creators are absolutely amazing there. And every creator has a micro community of their own. But not every creator will be able to invest into a team and build a tech of their own.
Exactly.
That takes away the entire purpose. Let's create a tech which suffices all these creator needs in one place. And when we decided to build this, we said, like Ashwarya mentioned, let the creator create content. Nobody in the world can tell a creator what piece of content you should make and what will work and what will not work, because that's your journey. What we can do is we can do the heavy lifting for you. We can make sure the brands that you need in your content is readily available. The products that you're actually using that your followers love can be available on your store. We can make sure that when somebody is purchasing from you, we can reward you for the transaction. We can make sure that the delivery is on time, right? So you make the content, you excite the audience, let the audience buy from you, and we will come as big brothers, small brothers, elder brothers, and we will support the entire back channel for you.
I want to make a point for all the entrepreneurs that are listening out there, and even for some of the venture capitalists. What's happening here is that business is being abstracted. Every little piece of the value chain or ecosystem in every business at scale is getting abstracted. And what you've done is you've abstracted this connectivity layer between revenue, product, and the content that gets created to either promote that product or is ancillary to that product, but still helps promote it and still helps sell it. But you're also democratizing it too, because in the old days, if you weren't Beyonce, you couldn't reach your potential partners because you couldn't afford to. But now you don't have to be that. That whole umbrella that was created underneath that level is now going to get served. Like in a way, this business had to be created because somebody needs to pay all these content creators that aren't getting paid, and they can't build the tech themselves. And they're on this wheel where they're just like chasing their tail to make enough money to keep going, to do stuff. And now you're saying, yeah, just you can run the same speed, but while you're running, you're also selling. And that selling is now going to help you build a bigger business. Is that fair?
Yeah. Very.
Okay. You got to come back, or you got to give me access to one person that uses the system as well, so that I can run through with them what they were doing beforehand, why they decided to try this, what the impact was on them, and how it's changed the way they create content and get value from that. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I think we'll arrange that very, very soon for you.
Okay, boys.
And interestingly, Michael, there's one thing while we were talking about what we are building, right?
Yeah.
And this is happening in the last 6 months, right? When we started building it out, nobody understood what we were building. There have been anecdotes in the conversation.
Where was the disconnect? Sorry, go ahead.
People don't understand, right? And in the past 6 to 9 months, wherever we've gone, whether it be on the brand side or on the creator side, or even on the tech side, in a 15-minute conversation, every person who's heard us talking or explain the product to them in a very, very brute, structural way, they've become brand advocates themselves. They're like, obviously, this had to be built. Obviously, this makes sense. Obviously, why didn't anybody else think of it before? Because this makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And it's logic. So we're not reinventing any wheel. We're not creating a new product in the market or a new technology. We're just converting human behavior into a tech.
Yeah. What I would say is you're taking all of the disparate connective tissue and figuring out a way to systematically connect it for people in a way that was impossible before. Look, this analogy gets used a lot, and I'll let you guys go after this. But in the same way that Amazon through AWS just made the building of tech stacks unnecessary for even tech companies, what you're saying is the building of the business stack for content creators into entrepreneurship is no longer necessary because it's the same business. You plug in here, we provide all these services that give you revenue. You give us back some of that in fees and services to us or whatever, and then you get bigger and bigger. And there's so many other businesses you can build on the back of that we can talk about the next time we have you on.
Yeah.
Because there's a gigantic fintech business that gets built on the other side of this that is also transformational. We can talk about the next time we record.
I just want to have that statement to make. No matter what you build, if you don't plug it with content to take it forward, then you'll not be successful.
No.
Any business.
No.
Any business out there. And I can take a bet on any business out there. You tell me one business who does not have a piece of content and feels that without plugging in content, I can scale their business, right? Yeah. So if something as fundamental, like content has become as fundamental as water to your body, right? If something is as fundamental to your business, I mean, I'm just helping you get a better attribution performance, a better return, a well data-driven approach to managing.
Perfect. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you go. Ashwarya, Garg, Akshay, Bhatnagar, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
And Michael, thank you for being a creatorpreneur out there. Thank you for bringing all the voices of the entrepreneurs. And I think one other thing which we were definitely going to put on a t-shirt is that every entrepreneur wants to be a creator and every creator wants to be an entrepreneur. And I think that's where thank you for putting all the entrepreneurs out there as a creator through your channel. And I wish you all the luck. And I think what you're doing is simply amazing. Kudos to all the viewers out there who we hope we're able to get some value out there to them on what we just said.
Thank you very much.